So, hey guys, today we're going to be talking a little bit about deck building. So, in general, it is super easy to tech or make a deck to play against just specifically one deck and make their lives kind of just miserable, right? So, for example, if we were against Tenpai, there is just so much anti-Tenpai tech available that as like a Tenpai player, there's probably not much you can do if your opponent is building their deck to just face off against yours specifically this hard. So if we're looking at Tenpai, we have all fire dragons. So we have Eschatos, Protos, and those are lingering floodgates. So if they resolve on the first turn, yeah, you just are locked out of summoning monsters essentially. You can still normal summon, but that's it. And even if you could summon something, it doesn't really matter because the immediate first action I can take is to lock again. So it's pretty much a forever lock with Eschatos. So Eschatos is a dragon, and you declare a monster type that is on the field. So we can declare its own type, and it's not destructible by card effects. So it's not going to be destroyed by its own card effect here. So we can just declare dragon every single time we enter main phase 1. And yeah, that's Eschatos for you. It's a bit like anti-Tenpai specific tech, and honestly, this tech specifically is going to be a little bit better for a little while because there are a lot of Dragon Link players for whatever reason, and the Dragon Link cards, we are getting Wyver Burster to 3, so yeah, makes sense to play Eschatos honestly, but if we're just going to be playing against one specific deck, the other issue that arises is that, well, we won't be able to face off against a different deck aside from the deck we specifically built up for here. So, for example, let's say if we throw a third deck into the equation, so if we make a quick anti-Tenpai list real quick, let's say, I don't know, there's quite a few ways to do it, but we'll go with triple tactics talents, I think. Yeah, talents, thrust. Well, Maxi's not like that great against Senpai anyways. So Ash Blossom, pretty solid. Called by, we need this to resolve our own cards. Potentially a crossout, I guess, is not bad also, but then we probably want to play Maxi with this. So that's not like fully efficient for how I would want to play it. Because Maxi is not that great going first. Considering, you know, if we resolve Maxi against Tenpai, it doesn't necessarily do that much for us. But okay. Aside from that, we have Imperm is pretty solid, honestly, still. But instead of Imperm, what else is there? Droll? Droll? Our opponent is going to, well, this would be better if we're using it to play against Maxi. If our deck doesn't like search too much, Droll would be good, I think. Aside from that, I guess it's just Ghost Ogre, right? We can go with like 2 Ogre, I think, and then maybe go with let's see, what else is popping here? We can go with, I guess, Bell. Ghost Bell is not bad as well. This can potentially play around a few things. Crow is also fine, I guess, but Ghost Bell is useful in a lot more situations, I think, than the Crow. Well, it's a bit situational regardless. So for our traps, I think this is like fairly solid. The rest we want probably just Solemns, honestly, are pretty good. So triple Solemn Judgment seems good. I don't think we want to play the other Solemn that might risk destroying our cards, so we're just not going to do that. And then aside from that, I guess some more like anti-Tenpai cards are in order. So D-Barrier, I guess, makes sense. Potentially, it's not like that bad, right? We also technically have Waking the Dragon, I guess. This is not that bad either. Unless our opponent's specifically on Red Reboot, which is why we would want to be on Solemn Judgment, right? I, I don't know about D-Barrier. D-Barrier is like not that bad, but it does have its flaws. The most notable one being if we have to face off against Red Reboot, we would need to open like D-Barrier plus Solemn Judgment, which is, yeah, that's not great. But we can keep going on with this, but essentially what I'm trying to get at here is that we won't be main decking any back row removal because why would we? And that it's completely useless against Tenpai. But okay, you know, other decks aside from Tenpai just exist, I guess. Well, actually, Duster is not completely useless. It's useful on like turn 3, which isn't that important, honestly. And you can probably do some other plays as well. That might be a bit better. But okay, now let's say we're against Labyrinth, Stun, or whatever. Okay, now without backer removal, the only thing we can hold on to hope for is the Ash Blossom and the Ghost Bell. But even worse than Labyrinth would be like Dynamorphia. So the only hand trap that we have that's really alive is maybe Ash Blossom's Joe Spring, but technically we could be facing off against 3 Misk and 3 Fossil Dig, which also searches Misk. So that would prevent us from being able to actually use any of our hand traps or anything like that against Rex Term, and we would be screwed. Like Rex Term, Kentragina, whatever. So yeah, that's pretty miserable, and there's also like Solemn Strikes and whatnot. So we would need a decent amount of back row removal main decked to counter maybe like Dynamorphia or something instead. But since we're mainly focused on Tenpai, yeah, that's not great exactly. And then what if we're forced to go second and we open like some of our Solemns, our D-Barriers, and all that? That's also not great. But for more anti-Tenpai tech, I guess we do want to be able to lethal. That's pretty important. So we would set up some kind of lethal combo. I don't think it really matters too much, or we can just try to build up advantage somehow and prevent Tenpai from building advantage. So honestly, now that I think about it, oh yeah, we could just run Labyrinth with these hand traps, and we would be just fine in general. Yeah, that would work, I guess, and it would make sense. Yeah. So deck building against a specific deck, pretty easy, and well, you won't be able to put in certain cards that might be better if we're focusing on specific decks because we must play certain cards to really counter temp, I guess, like Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit's a big one. Popping Sangan summoning. Whereas if we were to be playing against like, well, focusing on playing against just generically whatever decks, they're better cards than Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit generically. Like, well, not anymore, but Cyframe Gamma would be something I would prefer a lot of the time, I guess. But if we were specifically forced to go first, Gamma's like going to be dead most of the time. So yeah, that hurts. It really does. Well, we do have a new option, which is interesting, where we can Trickstar Reincarnation, which is kind of neat, I guess. But alright, yeah. If we do want to go with an anti-Tenpai build, there's just a billion options to do so, but if we hard focus Tenpai, we lose to like every other deck if we're going second into them. Like maybe, I don't know, we're against Tearlament. We're kind of okay with the Bell, like the Bell helps, but we're going to still have to deal with like a billion cards. Or if we have like Ghost Ogre Snow Rabbit, I don't think there's a single good target for us to Ghost Ogre. I think the best one is probably going to be Tearlament Scream to stop some mills, but then, yeah, our opponent will indeed control a Tearlament card, and they will get to add like either Meta Noise or Soliac, maybe even Crime, which is still not so great. So yeah, really going to have to do some thinking on this one, but I think one of the more accessible kind of like things we could do is just like scything, you know? Scythe block, very classic. Tenpai without an extra deck might as well not be a deck at all. And of course, this applies to most decks in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! So, you know, Scythe block, you probably win. Because a lot of decks are built around the extra deck and not so much main deck monsters. They're more so built around the extra deck ones. So yeah, that's pretty killer. And there's also technically, if we were to go Black Garden, if our Tenpai opponent is not on Dark Hole, like 3 copies of Dark Hole probably is your best bet against us, then they're screwed, because if their field is just filled with these stupid tokens, they can't do anything with them. You cannot send them to for cost with Forbidden Droplet, and you can't link them off because you don't play the links to link off these guys. So yeah, that's pretty solid, I guess, right? I think Firewall Dragon, technically, if you put it in, can link off with any monster, right? For whatever reason, right? Yes, 2+ monsters. So Firewall Dragon would be able to link off like the majority of them by itself, which is kind of humorous. But yeah, no one is going to randomly just have a Firewall Dragon in their deck, I don't think. Well, not anymore at least. So yeah. In general, I think going with like too specific of text, it kind of hurts a bit. Like Ghost Ogre can be useful in some cases, like if we're against Bright as well, we can pop a few different cards, and it's fairly useful against Sprite in that way. Like if we can pop their normal summon, if we can pop Gigantic with Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, that is pretty solid. But against certain other decks, it's like you don't have a single good target for Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, and it becomes complete garbanzo beans. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and hopefully you don't go too crazy on the anti Tenpai deck. And remember, there are still decks aside from just Tenpai, right? So that's all I want to say, really. Yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.